At the June family divine child's birthday celebration, a member of the primordial Long clan made an appearance. Moreover, judging by their demeanor, it seems they come with ill intentions. What's going on here? It turns out that several months ago, son of the primordial Long Roaring Sky successfully fused with the Long essence. As soon as this news broke, the entire lair of the primordial Long was in an uproar. It must be known that the Long essence is the flesh and blood essence left behind after the fall of the supreme of the Long race, containing various innate divine abilities and runic imprints, a treasure unparalleled in the world. However, even a single drop would cause an ordinary person to explode upon contact. Only those with the bloodline of the primordial Long tribe have a chance to fuse with it. And Long Roaring Sky was the fortunate one who obtained this supreme opportunity. Just as the group of demons raised their cups in celebration, a discordant voice suddenly rang out. Just because you've merged with a single Long essence, you're already gloating here. Yet you don't realize that the June family next door has produced a divine child worshipped by myriad saints. Utterly ridiculous. Yes, the one speaking was Lawn Grace. To wash away the humiliation she previously suffered at the June family, she planned to use the primordial Long clan to exact revenge on them. As expected, Long Roaring Sky became intrigued upon hearing this and immediately asked her to explain clearly. Lawn Grace then took the opportunity to explain that June Carefree was born with a sacred body. To find out the truth, Long Roaring Sky brought his people to see just how powerful this primordial sacred body, which had broken free from its shackles, really was. Who would have thought that upon arriving, they would witness June Carefree being defeated by Yi Cloudstar? He thought it was Lawn Grace playing a trick on him. Furious, he directly kicked the opponent flying. Fortunately, June Exquisite intervened in time and caught Lawn Grace, preventing her from suffering more serious injuries. At that moment, June Carefree swaggered forward and said, Hey young man, isn't it a bit too much to openly beat up a disciple of the June family right here on our turf? Upon hearing this, June family disciple Long Roaring Sky showed a mocking expression and said, What are you talking about? That person is my slave girl, so naturally I can treat her however I want. Hearing this, Lawn Grace gritted her teeth in anger, but she still humbly admitted that she was indeed Lord Longchild's slave girl. Witnessing this scene, June Exquisite couldn't help but show a look of surprise, not understanding why she would do such a thing. Meanwhile, June Swordworn, standing nearby, broke out in a cold sweat. He never expected that this former follower would dare to bring people from the lair of the primordial Long to disrupt the grand banquet of the June family. This was clearly a direct insult to the June family's reputation. If this were to be investigated, he would likely be implicated as well, and even his sequence status might not be secure. On the other side, after hearing the term female slave, June Carefree disdainfully picked at his ear and then slowly said, My grandfather once said that our old June family has always had a rocky relationship with the Long race. Especially after my father, June Unrepentant, tore apart the supreme of the Long race, skinned and deboned him. The Long race has regarded our old June family as mortal enemies. If you, young man, wish to seek revenge for that past grievance, you should come directly at me. Only bullying a woman and using such methods to disgust the June family is truly low and despicable. This not only fails to appear impressive, but instead makes you look like a worthless person. No wonder you've been looked down upon all these years. Upon hearing this, Long Roaring Sky was instantly enraged, veins bulging on his forehead. His two subordinates behind him couldn't bear it any longer either. With an angry roar, they charged towards June Carefree. But before they could get close, two attacks landed on them respectively. These two attacks directly blasted the two of them back. In front of June Carefree, two figures had appeared. 10 sequence June Swordworn and 7 sequence June Snow Phoenix. At this moment, June Carefree's gaze also turned extremely sharp. This is the June family. You country bumpkins have no right to cause trouble here. The young man was only 10 years old. Yet within him lay the power of the sage, capable of destroying heaven and earth. However, this also attracted the covetous eyes of other forces. On the very day of June Carefree's 10th birthday, the son of the primordial Long Roaring Sky brought his men to provoke and test whether the primordial sacred body was truly as formidable as the legends claimed. However, before the two subordinates could even get close, they were intercepted by the June family's 10 sequence swordmasters, and intercepted by the June family's 7 sequence June Snow Phoenix. With just one move, both were sent flying backward. June Snow Phoenix let out a disdainful cold snort. How dare any random nobody challenge our June family? Hearing this, Long Roaring Sky gritted his teeth in fury. As the esteemed son of the primordial Long, He had never been looked down upon like this before. Today, he was determined to make them witness his true strength. As his aura surged uncontrollably, June Swordworn instinctively felt a chill of apprehension. But before he could react, Long Roaringski's attack was already upon him. To his astonishment, the opponent's power far exceeded his expectations. In just the span of a single breath, he was completely thrown off his feet. Seeing this, June Snow Phoenix, who was nearby, immediately cast a spell. Countless ice spikes instantly shot toward Long Roaringski. Yet, Long Roaringski merely cast a disdainful glance at them. With just a swift dodge, he effortlessly evaded and instantly appeared before the opponent. June Snow Phoenix couldn't react in time, and by now it was already too late to dodge. At this critical moment, June Carefree suddenly appeared and shielded June Snow Phoenix. He directly grabbed Long Roaringski's hand. The entire hall fell into a sudden silence. No one could figure out how this guy had appeared there. June Carefree glanced at the other with an indifferent expression, then with a slight exertion of his hand, he crushed Long Roaringski's wristband. The immense force instantly sent waves of pain through Long Roaringski, causing cold sweat to pour down. But before he could even react, June Carefree's fist had already smashed over. Yet, to everyone's surprise, the one who got hit, Long Roaringski, wasn't angry at all. Instead, he burst into unrestrained laughter because he felt that only someone of such strength was worthy of facing him. June Carefree also knew that what had just happened was merely a minor skirmish, and that the real confrontation was about to begin. So, he had June Swordworn and the others step back first. Upon hearing this, the two immediately showed worried expressions and were about to say something. They were interrupted by June Skywar, who was standing nearby. "It's fine. If I ask you to step back, just do so. Make room for them. Today is this young man's 10th birthday banquet, so let him personally entertain the distinguished families from all directions." As he spoke, only June Carefree and Long Roaringski remained on the stage. The two of them quietly gazed at each other, and in the next second, their figures vanished simultaneously. With a deafening crash, the two collided violently in mid-air. But in the blink of an eye, both vanished from their positions once again. Immediately after, the entire arena echoed with the sounds of their fierce combat. However, the spectators found it nearly impossible to track their movements. Yi Cloudstar, who was watching from the sidelines, was utterly stunned because he couldn't keep up with their speed at all. It was only then that he realized the vast gap between himself and June Carefree. At that moment, Uncle Fu beside him suddenly spoke. "Young master, don't blink. Watch carefully. The battles that truly take place at the pinnacle of the era are not like those fought by prodigies like you, but a group of monsters. What you see before you now are such monsters. The destruction caused by two monstrous prodigies surpassing all others in battle is unimaginably terrifying. The mere shockwaves from their collision can instantly obliterate everything in the vicinity." Fortunately, at the critical moment, June Skywar stepped in and formed a barrier around the two, preventing the others from being affected. At the center of the arena, June Carefree, seeing Long Roaringski growing increasingly excited, asked somewhat puzzledly, "Didn't you come here to seek revenge on me? Why do you seem so happy?" Long Roaringski grinned and said, "What does the grudge from the previous generation have to do with me? It's not every day I get to fight someone with the human race sacred body. How could I not be excited?" With that, he tore off the jacket he was wearing. He then began to channel the power of the Long essence within him. Instantly, Long Roaringski's aura surged several times over. In the next moment, the spiritual chi within him began to coalesce. Ultimately, it transformed into a giant Long, coiling and circling in the sky above his head. Seeing that the opponent was about to unleash a major move, June Carefree also began to take things seriously. As he swiftly formed hand seals, countless streams of golden spiritual chi rapidly condensed. Beside him, June Skywar was instantly startled because he recognized this technique. This is precisely the June family's secret technique, the supreme technique in art. Supreme mysterious chi condenses into a blade, becoming a divine weapon. In an instant, the golden spiritual chi surrounding June Carefree transformed into countless flying swords. Witnessing this scene, everyone present was utterly astonished. They had long heard of the June family's weapon strike manual, but witnessing it firsthand still left them awestruck by its divine power. However, Long Roaringski appeared even more excited at this moment. He immediately controlled the giant dragon to dive toward June Carefree, colliding with countless flying swords in an instant. But the very next second, the giant dragon formed from spiritual chi was completely shattered. At the same time, Long Roaring Sky was also engulfed by countless flying swords. After the strike, Long Roaring Sky was on the verge of collapse. Although he had not fallen on the spot, he no longer had the strength to continue fighting. His legs gave way, and he collapsed to the ground. At this moment, he had completely lost the arrogance he had at the beginning. He had originally believed that he was invincible among the younger generation. Little did he expect that today he would be effortlessly defeated by June Carefree. This was undoubtedly a huge blow to Long Roaring Sky. However, June Carefree didn't feel much sense of accomplishment from this. He simply turned around and gave everyone a faint smile. Seeing this, the onlookers around all offered their congratulations. This also gave June Skywar a small boost to his vanity, his face full of contentment. But at that very moment, his eyes suddenly widened in terror. To his surprise, the defeated Long Roaring Sky was attempting a sneak attack. Yet at this moment, June Carefree remained completely unaware of the danger behind him. A proud prodigy of the Long race was actually defeated by a 10-year-old boy. This is undoubtedly a huge blow to him. Just as June Carefree turned around and was about to leave, the originally defeated Long Child suddenly launched a sneak attack. He swung his claw, solidly slashing across June Carefree's back. But to Long Roaring Sky's surprise, under this strike, the opponent was completely unharmed, while his own nail shattered on the spot. Just as Long Roaring Sky was stunned in disbelief, June Carefree immediately turned around and delivered a swift flying kick. But the next second, he froze in astonishment. Yet the kicked Long Roaring Sky seemed to feel no pain at all, his entire being like a walking corpse. At that very moment, a flash of white light suddenly surged within him, and his entire aura abruptly multiplied several times over. Witnessing this scene, the onlookers couldn't help but let out a gasp of surprise. They realized that Long Roaring Sky had just forcefully broken through to the Divine Bridge stage by activating his Long Essence. However, doing so would inevitably lead to an unstable foundation for him. It offers him absolutely no benefit whatsoever. It's truly baffling why he would choose to do this. At this moment, Long Roaring Sky seemed to have fallen into a frenzy, charging madly towards June Carefree. June Carefree also sensed that something was amiss. He immediately tapped his foot lightly, intending to create some distance first. However, when he turned to look back, he actually discovered that Long Roaring Sky was covered in spiritual chi threads. June Carefree suddenly realized, this guy must be under someone's control, and the manipulator is right above these clouds. Seeing this situation, he immediately released his spiritual energy, forming a long spear in his hand. Then, he mustered all his strength and hurled it fiercely into the sky. The golden spear instantly pierced through the clouds, soaring straight into the heavens. But at that very moment, an invisible force suddenly halted the spear in midair, and the next second, it shattered completely with a thunderous crash. This scene made June Carefree widen his eyes in disbelief. He never expected that his full-force strike would be so utterly ineffective. Just as he was stunned, Long Roaring Sky charged at him once again and pinned him down. Seeing this guy being manipulated like a puppet without even realizing it, June Carefree was utterly enraged. He immediately headbutted the opponent, sending him flying. Just at that moment, a system notification sound suddenly rang out. Sign-in location triggered. 10th birthday banquet. Host, will you sign in? June Carefree almost forgot about this lousy system. Upon seeing this, he immediately clicked to check in. The next second, June Carefree felt an unknown power suddenly surge within his body. Check-in successful. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the 7 stars reward, the Supreme Bone. Ranked within the top 30 of the 3,000 constitutions, the holder can unleash supreme-level divine abilities beyond their current cultivation stage. Unlock Supreme Divine Ability, Celestial Tribulation Light. At the same time, the unusual transformation on June Carefree's body also caused a sensation throughout the entire venue. Oh my god, could that be the Supreme Bone? When did this kid get the Supreme Bone? Look at June Carefree on the field now. He clearly feels a significant boost in strength. Even against the Supreme stage, he believes he has the power to contend. And when he looked up at the sky again, he discovered a colossal long silhouette above the clouds. With his current strength, he could already discern that the other party was the supreme of the Long race. Clearly, it intended to annihilate him, the sacred body of the human race. Yet, it couldn't bring itself to act personally and thus used the younger generation as puppets. Thinking of this, June Carefree didn't hesitate for a moment, and immediately unleashed the Celestial Tribulation Light. Instantly, the entire sky was filled with countless golden lights, making the giant long hiding in the shadows completely exposed. Witnessing this scene, everyone present was struck with astonishment, never expecting that the long races the Supreme was hidden in the sky. Even more astonishing is the fact that this divine child from the Jun family, despite being only at the true spirit stage, was able to force the Supreme to reveal themselves. Such an event has never occurred in the entire desolate immortal domain. A young man unexpectedly obtained the Supreme Bone, and his power instantly skyrocketed. At merely the true spirit stage, a single move of celestial tribulation light forced the long race to. The Supreme had no choice but to reveal their true form. Seeing the plan exposed, the Supreme of Long Race could only snort in displeasure and say, "The junior of the Jun family has commendable courage. Let's end today's matter here." As soon as the words were spoken, Jun Carefree was heard sneering coldly. Let's end it here? You started the trouble at the Jun family first, using such despicable means against me, and now you think a few casual words will make me back off? How shameless of you." Hearing this, the Supreme of Long Race immediately darkened his expression. "What do you want?" Jun Carefree said coldly. "Today I will follow in my father's footsteps and slaughter this loach right here." Audacious! The Supreme of the Long Race instantly erupted in fury, unleashing a powerful aura of pressure from his body. The majority of those present were instantly overwhelmed by this force, unable to remain standing. However, 10-year-old Jun Carefree stood firmly in place as if nothing had happened. This scene made the Supreme of the Long Race shudder inwardly. He couldn't understand why this mere true spirit stage brat could withstand his long pressure. At that moment, Jun Myriad Trials, who had been silent all along, suddenly stepped forward. He wanted to show the other party the strength of the Jun family's 5 sequence. However, he was stopped by Jun Skywar. Just as he was about to ask for an explanation, suddenly a commanding voice echoed through the sky. "A mere Supreme dares to act recklessly in my Jun family?" Hearing this voice, the Supreme of the Long Race immediately sensed trouble. But before he could react, a flash of golden light suddenly swept past. In the next second, one of his long claws was severed on the spot. Witnessing this scene, everyone present couldn't help but show expressions of shock and awe. The Supreme in all his majesty had an arm severed so easily, revealing just how terrifying the speaker's strength truly was. And the one who struck was none other than the 18th generation ancestor of the Jun family. He grabbed Long Roaring Sky by the neck and lifted him into the air. The Supreme of the Long Race saw this and immediately shouted at Jun 18 to stop. "How dare you kill him?" The patriarch sneered upon hearing this. "Not just him, you're next." After saying that, he exerted force with his hand and directly snapped Long Roaring Sky's neck. Upon witnessing this scene, the Supreme of Long Race instantly lost all reason and charged towards the opponent with a furious roar. Patriarch, seeing this, calmly raised his right hand and gave a light wave. A golden sword aura instantly sliced through the night sky. The next second, the Supreme of Long Race suddenly halted in midair. Immediately after, its massive body crashed down with a thunderous impact. With a single sword strike, the Supreme fell. Everyone watched the scene before them in utter terror. At this moment, the Patriarch looked at Jun Skywar and instructed him to roast this black dragon to entertain all the guests present. Jun Skywar naturally dared not object and immediately complied. However, the others wore worried expressions. It was clear that the ancestral patriarch of the Jun family was forcing them to make a choice. If they agreed to eat the flesh and blood of the Supreme of the dragon race, they would offend the dragon lair. If they refused, they would be disrespecting the Jun family. Just as they were unsure what to do, the voice of the ancestral patriarch of the Jun family rang out once more. "I presume everyone present is aware that the Jun family's 10 great sequences are all unparalleled prodigies. However, above the 10 great sequences there is actually one more position. Sword-slaying the son of the primordial dragon, withstanding the Supreme of the dragon race, the divine child Jun Carefree is precisely the new 0 sequence of our Jun family." As soon as these words were spoken, everyone instantly understood. No wonder this divine child of the Jun family was so formidable. It turned out he was the 0 sequence personally appointed by the patriarch. However, Jun Carefree paid no attention to these discussions. At that moment, he was staring intently in the direction of the patriarch. Sensing his gaze, the patriarch looked over with some confusion, only to realize that the little fellow seemed quite interested in the young dragon he was holding. Seeing this, he directly tossed Long Roaring Sky over. He then laughed and said, "This kid has unrefined long essence within him. You should extract it and refine it yourself. It will be greatly beneficial to you. Come see me after the banquet ends. With that, he turned and left the place, while June carefree quietly gazed at Long Roaringski's corpse, lost in thought. People often say, dragon meat in the sky, donkey meat on the ground. But when it actually comes to eating it, everyone hesitates to take a bite. Especially when it's the flesh of a top-tier long race contender, the Supreme. At this moment, the June family is hosting guests with the flesh and blood of the recently slain Supreme Long. However, June Myriad Trials, the seventh sequence of the June family, did not have his mind on this matter. Yet, when he found the clan leader, before he could even speak, he was cut off. Are you asking if June Carefree ever participated in the sequence competition? I can tell you clearly, no, he did not. His zero sequence was personally designated by the Patriarch right at the time of his birth. This might be unfair to you. That's why Patriarch has granted you permission to initiate a sequence battle against Carefree at any time, and he will never interfere. After listening to the account, June Myriad Trials paused to reflect for a moment. Then, he pretended to have something urgent and left the banquet hall. This move was also quite appreciated by the clan leader. It seems that if he were to challenge Carefree at the banquet now, the June family would be thoroughly embarrassed. At that moment, the clan leader suddenly thought of something and asked his subordinates where Carefree was. Upon hearing that Carefree was preparing to refine the Long Essence, and that he aimed to break through from the True Spirit stage to the Divine Bridge stage in one go, he was well aware of the dangers involved in breaking through across realms. Clan leader immediately ordered to find June Carefree and make him stop that madness at once. The scene shifts to the high tower deep within the June family. June Carefree silently handed over Long Roaringski's ashes to June Exquisite. Burn it. Find a spot here and help me bury him. You seem quite upset about this matter, don't you? From your perspective, I should indeed be pleased. Defeating the rising star of a rival clan, withstanding the pressure of a supreme expert 7 or 8 stages above me, and bringing honor to the clan leader, human life in this world truly is cheap, isn't it? However, upon hearing this, June Exquisite initially intended to console Carefree, who was still expressing that this world is inherently one of survival of the fittest. Since he dared to come here and provoke trouble, he should have been prepared to sacrifice. Why should the divine child dwell on it? But upon hearing June Carefree murmur, then what difference is there between this and being a beast? June Exquisite, however, smiled faintly and said, your way of thinking is simply unlike anyone from this world. But if you are dissatisfied with the laws of this world, then you can only become the supreme of the supreme, the one and only the great emperor in the world. Only then will you have the power to alter the laws. As soon as the words fell, June Carefree suddenly burst into laughter. He thought to himself, whether it's rebirth or a system, since he has obtained all this, there must be a reason for it. Above and below the 3,000 worlds. I am the great emperor, only then can I be carefree. At this moment, a subtle aura emanated from June Carefree, instantly causing June Exquisite's pupils to dilate in shock. Because in her mind, she saw a scene she never dared to imagine. That was the grown-up June Carefree receiving the worship and reverence of thousands, with the name of Celestial Emperor resounding throughout the entire universe. And with a slight sting, June Exquisite was jolted back to reality. She then realized that this was a future-seen glimpse through her own heart of 7 orifices, luminous and exquisite. That is to say, the divine child might truly become the ruler in the future. However, at this moment, June Carefree isn't thinking that far ahead. He found an open space, and the long essence flashed into his hand. Each major breakthrough of the primordial sacred body triggers a thunder tribulation. You should leave first to avoid being affected. Remember to find me a new set of clothes. No sooner had the words been spoken than dark clouds suddenly gathered in the sky. And as the long essence was slowly opened and absorbed by Carefree, the crowd in the distance witnessed a terrifying scene. Even the clan leader, who had just arrived, could only stare wide-eyed. Because at this moment, the thunder tribulation had completely enveloped Jun Xiaoyao's petite figure. With one hand raised to the sky, he was forcefully resisting the swift lightning. Proudly gazing at the heavens, only I, the divine child of the Jun family, stand supreme. At the age of 10, I could already touch the heavenly Tao. 100,000 thunder tribulations forged my immortal sacred body. A surge of intense energy rippled out instantly, and those with keen eyes immediately recognized the golden spiritual qi, realizing it must be the Jun family divine child undergoing the tribulation of the primordial sacred body. At this moment, Jun Carefree, having completed the tribulation, slowly raised his head. His revealed true appearance had shed its former immaturity, becoming more resolute and upright. He gazed at the lingering power of the thunder tribulation before him, which seemed unwilling to dissipate. June Carefree slowly opened his palm and raised it. In the next moment, with a single strike, he shattered the tribulation cloud. This breathtaking scene instantly left everyone present utterly stunned, their jaws dropping in disbelief. Everyone sighed in awe, remarking that this era of fierce competition might just become the exclusive stage for June family's divine child. However, at this moment June Carefree was not so optimistic. Because most of the thunder tribulation's power and the energy within the long essence were absorbed by the supreme bone. As a result, his current strength still falls one step short of the divine bridge stage. Currently, the only way for him to advance quickly is to seek heavenly treasures to nourish the supreme bone. Then he looked at June Exquisite, who had just arrived in time. He then informed her that after the banquet concluded, he would be leaving the Celestial Emperor Palace to embark on a journey of cultivation and experience. You help me immediately go and find some places worth visiting. After saying this, he turned and walked toward the Patriarch's residence. Meanwhile, inside the lair of the primordial Long, the Supreme was roaring furiously into the void. Do you really think my lair of the primordial Long is some stray dog to be trampled on at will? At that moment, a helpless sigh came from the person beside me. June 18 is the infamous madman of the June family. Seeking revenge against him is far too difficult. But at the same time, someone proposed, since he dares to assassinate our lair of the primordial Long child and the supreme of Long race, why can't we retaliate by targeting his June family sequence? It seems that the June family divine child is also nearing the age to venture out for training. When our Long heaven-defiant emerges from seclusion, he will surely sweep through the younger generation of the immortal domain. By then, killing a mere June family divine child will be as easy as lifting a hand. The scene shifts to the conclusion of the June family divine child's 10th birthday banquet. As soon as young Master Yi boarded the aircraft and departed, the butler inquired about the gains from this trip. The June family's divine child possesses both the primordial sacred body and the supreme bone, two extraordinary constitutions. His cultivation level far surpasses mine. Yet he does not act arrogantly because of this. Instead, he treats me with respect. I truly am worthless. At this moment, the butler, seeing the somewhat dejected young master, thought his Tao heart had been shattered. Only after listening to his subsequent explanation did he finally feel relieved. I am not qualified to be a stumbling block on his path to becoming an emperor, but some things must be fought for by oneself. The road ahead has only just begun. Who can predict who will ultimately win or lose? It is said that the bond between grandparents and grandchildren is innate. Then what would it be like if it were the 18th generation, just like the June family's 18th generation ancestor patriarch? He looked at his grandson, whose body had transformed after absorbing the Long essence, and the more he looked, the more he adored him. Then he suddenly had a whimsical idea and asked June Xiaoyao, if you become the Celestial Emperor many years from now, what would you do? If I become the Celestial Emperor, I will definitely suppress all enemies and uphold world peace. But if every Celestial Emperor follows the same routine, wouldn't that be too boring? At this moment, seeing the Patriarch's slightly puzzled gaze, a torrent of bold and audacious words burst directly from June Carefree's mouth. If I become the Celestial Emperor, I will surely create an era that shakes the ancient and modern worlds, surpassing everyone's imagination. With a phone and internet access, even mortals can touch the stars and freely enjoy the thrill of soaring through the universe. The first part sounded reasonable, but the baseless claims that followed left the Patriarch utterly bewildered. But he already knew his grandson had grand ambitions, so he didn't dwell on it too much. He approached June Carefree and asked if he would like to learn the immortal slaying sword manual. Is it the sword manual you use to slay the Supreme of Abyss Long with a single strike? The sword is the sovereign of all weapons. The sword manuals of the desolate immortal domain are as vast as the sea, and those at the pinnacle are known to the world as the 5 great divine manuals. The June family's immortal slaying sword manual is indeed one of them. However, due to its immense power, mastering it is an exceptionally difficult task. That is precisely why the immortal slaying sword manual is not made available to ordinary clan members, to prevent them from wasting decades of their lives. Now that you are about to venture out into the world, consider this sword manual as my gift to you, a hidden trump card. As soon as the words were spoken, just as June Carefree was excitedly and hurriedly bowing to the Patriarch, he was once again doused with cold water by the Patriarch. Although I promised you could go out and explore the world after learning the first move. But remember, from now on you must learn to solve problems on your own. This old man won't step in to help unless it's absolutely necessary. The scene shifts to outside the Jun family warehouse several days later. At this moment, the servants are showering the person inside the warehouse with continuous praise. No wonder she's the divine child's personal maid. The workload that would take us half a year. Miss Exquisite finished in just a few days, truly impressive. However, June Exquisite inside had no time to pay attention to the admiration from outside. Because while organizing the list, she discovered a letter. Exquisite, my esteemed friend, greetings. My father is gravely ill and unable to attend the 10th birthday celebration of the Jun family's divine child. The Jun family, being the supreme lineage of the desolate, holds unparalleled prestige. I humbly request the gift of an elixir of immortality to save our nation's ruler and the millions of common people. The Vermilion Bird Kingdom is willing to repay with the entire kingdom. Seeing this, June Exquisite recalled the graceful figure from her childhood. It was clear that this letter was not written for divine child at all, but for her. At that very moment, an invisible pressure suddenly enveloped the entire Jun family. She immediately turned to look, and her gaze fell upon the source of the pressure, the secluded cultivation site of divine child Jun Carefree. The emergence of the immortal slaying sword manual had drawn countless powerful figures to witness the spectacle. The clan leader initially thought it was the patriarch emerging from seclusion, but those with keen eyes could tell that the techniques of this sword manual were still immature. It must have been the prodigy, who had mastered the immortal slaying sword manual in just 3 months, who had caused this. At this moment, within the ancestral grounds of the Jun family, the 18th generation ancestor patriarch was staring in stunned disbelief at the scene before him. As the smoke cleared, a voice reached his ears. Patriarch, does my move Immortal's Demise qualify as passable? This playful scene couldn't help but make the patriarch burst into hearty laughter. Back in my day, it took me a full year to comprehend this move Immortal's Demise. I never expected you, kid. Ha ha ha. Then he slapped his chest in excitement, looking at his grandson Jun Carefree with admiration and affection, and declared loudly, go. It's time to create an era of your own. The scene shifts and Jun Carefree has already left the ancestral land of the Jun family. For 3 months in seclusion, he has been absorbing the taste of freedom in the air. This made him involuntarily recall the place he had entrusted little Exquisite to find before his seclusion, wondering if it had been located yet. And just as he was about to go bid farewell to his grandfather, he realized his grandfather had already arrived by his side. Seeing Jun Carefree's puzzled look, his grandfather simply rolled his eyes at him in return. Stop staring, you brat. With all this commotion you've caused, how could I, as the Jun family clan leader, not come and see what's going on? Later, it was heard that Jun Carefree had already mastered the first move of the immortal slaying sword manual. While he was amazed, he was also puzzled. You little rascal, I've watched you grow up since you were a child. How come I never noticed you had a supreme bone hidden on you? Hearing his grandfather's question, Jun Carefree naturally couldn't admit to having a sign-in system. So he brushed it off, saying, your big grandson here is a treasure trove of surprises. There's still plenty you don't know about me. As soon as the words were out, Grandpa had no intention of listening to his playful banter and suddenly turned serious. He indicated that because you possess 2 top-tier physiques, cultivating requires twice the effort. Especially the primordial sacred body, which manifested the myriad saints' worship at your birth. There is still a hidden phenomenon within it that has yet to awaken, and you must comprehend and unlock it yourself. However, I know where you can accelerate your understanding of the second sacred body phenomenon. At this moment, he looked at his grandfather, who suddenly began to play coy. Jun Carefree immediately launched his tried-and-true coaxing tactics at his grandfather. This made the grandfather push him aside with a laugh and ask, Carefree, have you ever heard of the divine martial dynasty? That is a top-tier force at the level of an immortal divine dynasty. Although its founder was the great Emperor Pan-Material, my Jun family also produced the great Emperor renouncing heaven. And the great Emperor Pan-Material possesses the primordial sacred body. Rumors suggest that deep within the divine martial dynasty's imperial palace lies a Pan-Material mausoleum, possibly related to him, but that mythic realm does not seem to be open to the public. But if you insist on entering, Grandfather might just force his way through for the sake of your future path, if necessary. This playful scene couldn't help but make Jun Carefree exclaim. The Jun family's domineering spirit truly runs in the blood. Then he promised his grandfather not to worry. Once he had the opportunity to venture out, he would definitely go to the divine martial dynasty to investigate. However, shortly after the grandfather and grandson ended their conversation, the system's voice rang out. Unfortunately, the check-in locations displayed by the system, the primordial heaven supreme secret treasure and the Pan-Material mausoleum, were both places June Carefree couldn't reach anytime soon. At this moment, as Carefree's eyes suddenly widened, his gaze fell upon a graceful figure standing quietly in the bamboo pavilion, lost in thought. Whoa, you couldn't possibly be waiting for me, could you? As your attendant, it's only right that I wait here. June Exquisite's flattering reply made June Carefree shudder all over. He said, "Please don't do this, it gives me the creeps. If you have something to say, just say it directly." At that moment, June Exquisite handed over a set of bamboo slips. He suddenly knelt down before June Carefree, and Carefree originally intended to scold her for kneeling so abruptly without permission. But after glancing at the bamboo slips, he decided to first take a look at them. Then the name of a place from the Vermilion Bird Ancient Kingdom and an elixir of immortality caught his eye. To Carefree's delight, after he agreed to June Exquisite's request, unexpectedly, it also accidentally activated the system's check-in task at the Vermilion Bird Ancient Kingdom's Imperial Palace. The 88-year-old king is critically ill and on the verge of death. Only by obtaining the elixir of immortality can he escape death and be reborn. And he watches the princess worry about it all day long. The king originally intended to give up his life to free the princess. Unexpectedly, today the elixir of immortality finally showed some progress. At this moment, after hearing the maid's report that the Prince of Azure Long Ancient Kingdom was waiting in the side hall, this enraged the Vermilion Bird King so much that his blood surged instantly, nearly causing him to collapse. Seeing this, Princess by Jade hurriedly tried to calm her father, urging him not to get angry. She assured him that she had a way to handle the situation and told him not to worry. Soon after, the scene shifted to the main hall. Looking at the Crown Prince of the Baiyu Qinglong Ancient Kingdom, who was bowing respectfully before him, Xiao Chan couldn't help but sigh. "Between you and me, there's no need for such formality. It's only been a few days, but you've grown much more haggard." After saying this, he did not forget to state the purpose of his visit, assuring her to rest easy. On the day of their grand wedding, the Azure Dragon Ancient Kingdom would present the elixir of immortality as a betrothal gift. As soon as the words were spoken by Jade, anxious to save her father, could only force a smile in return, her heart silently hoping that he would not go back on his word when the time came. After seeing Xiao dust off, by Jade's personal maid couldn't help but start to complain. His Majesty clearly went to investigate the poison in the mythic realm with the Azure Dragon King. Yet they're using this to force the prince into a marriage alliance. How shameless. Hearing this by Jade, fearing that the walls might have ears, quickly told Aju to shut her mouth. But at the same time, she understood that if the marriage alliance succeeded, the Vermilion Bird Ancient Kingdom would be completely cornered. The foundation passed down by their ancestors would eventually be swallowed up by the Azure Dragon Ancient Kingdom. And just as he was brooding over this, a sudden announcement interrupted her train of thought. "Your Highness, the June family. The June family has finally replied." Upon seeing this, By Jade hurriedly opened the jade slip. The handwriting of June Exquisite on it instantly filled her with overwhelming joy. "Excellent. Father King is saved." The scene shifts to the June family's Celestial Emperor Palace. At this moment, June Carefree is staring blankly ahead. Indecisiveness is being displayed to the fullest extent in him. This made the old lady unable to resist complaining to June Exquisite. "Miss, what is the little divine child doing?" As the divine child, he should be riding the nine-dragon imperial carriage. Why is he choosing among these exotic beasts? Just then, June Carefree suddenly approached June Exquisite and asked her that By Jade said that if he obtains the elixir of immortality, he is willing to repay with his kingdom. Does that mean he will submit to me and become my personal subordinate force? As soon as the words fell, after June Exquisite gave an affirmative reply, she also explained that in fact, every sequence of the June family has their own subordinate forces behind them. Even the 10th sequence, June Swordworn, has the ancient sword sect that obeys his commands. Although the Vermilion Bird Ancient Kingdom has seen a decline in national power in recent years, its princess, By Jade, possesses the Vermilion Bird Divine Flame, making her a true prodigy of her generation. Hearing this, June Carefree suddenly grinned and sneered. "June Exquisite, are you just trying to plead for your little sister?" At this moment, June Exquisite, who had always been expressionless, suddenly put on a pitiful act. She expressed, "How would Exquisite dare? Exquisite is absolutely loyal to the divine child. How could I possibly deceive the divine child for the sake of some outsider just to obtain the elixir of immortality? Alright, stop acting. I was just joking. However, I really don't want to recruit just any random person either. Whether the Vermilion Bird Ancient Kingdom is worthy of this elixir of immortality, I still need to see it with my own eyes to verify." And as he listened to Jun Xiaoyao's unconventional thoughts, Jun Linglong was marveling at how wise she had been to take the risk and pledge allegiance to him back then, only to be left speechless once again by Jun Xiaoyao's eccentric behavior. After careful consideration, Jun Xiaoyao actually chose an alpaca as his mount, insisting on riding it to the Vermilion Bird Ancient Kingdom. Ugh! She betrayed her clan and colluded with outsiders to bring disaster upon the Jun family. According to the clan rules, she should be nailed to a wooden stake by her limbs, and left to wither and die under the scorching sun. However, the executor, Jun Carefree, simply waved his hand dismissively. She boasted that in the future, she would become the great emperor of the world. He asked Jun Exquisite to bring out paper and pen. He asked her to write down the first quote from the celestial emperor Jun before leaving the mountain. That is, to punish without first teaching is called cruelty. Soon after, in the Jun family dungeon, hearing the sound of the cell door opening, Lan Grace had clearly long been prepared for death. She expressed that she had only one request: give me a swift end. However, Jun Exquisite completely ignored her words and only announced the punishment that the divine child had decreed for her. Lan Grace, you colluded with outsiders to bring harm to the Jun family. The divine child sentences you to kneel in reflection outside the celestial emperor palace for 1 year. After 1 year, all grievances will be settled, and you will be expelled from the Jun family. If you still harbor resentment, you may challenge the divine child at any time. However, if you remain unrepentant and continue to collude with external forces against the Jun family, then the divine child will crush any forces you have colluded with, and personally end your life. At the same time, upon hearing this, Grandpa is worried about Jun Carefree's soft-heartedness. However, the clan elder expressed a different opinion, suggesting that rather than being soft-hearted, in this era where everyone follows the way of the hegemon, he actually intends to pursue the way of the king that makes all people submit. But how many people in this world can truly achieve the submission of all? The scene shifts to the palace of the Vermilion Bird Ancient Kingdom a few days later. Watching his close friend Jun Exquisite actually arrive as promised. Overjoyed, Prince Jade excitedly expressed repeatedly. In the end, it really comes down to sisters. Men simply can't be relied on at all. But just as the words were spoken, Jun Exquisite poured cold water on her head, saying that the Qilin elixir of immortality does exist, but it's not in her possession. My lord said he wants to see with his own eyes whether this country is worthy of his offering the elixir of immortality, which is why he did not come along. Upon hearing Jun Exquisite's description, His Highness Jade couldn't help but exclaim, "Heavens! Your lord? What kind of extraordinary being must he be to have someone as exceptional as you willingly follow him?" As soon as these words were spoken, the thought of the divine child's usual demeanor immediately brought a bitter smile to Jun Exquisite's face, who then replied, "That's something you'll only understand once you meet him." At this moment, in a tavern within the imperial city, seeing all the drinks had been served, Jun Carefree couldn't help but let out a sigh of admiration. "This wine is truly excellent. If only those noisy fellows weren't here, it would be even better. I want the finest wine and dishes you have here. Are you trying to brush us off with this garbage? Don't you know who we are?" A man got food stuck in his teeth from drinking water. In a fit of rage, he wanted to take the servant's life. Watching the servant who was in tears from pain but remained silent, this only deepened the man's resentment, and he let out a sinister smile. Just as he was about to snap the neck, someone suddenly stopped his movement. "What? Does the Vermilion Bird Envoy also want to spoil our fun?" "No, I just think the Azure Long Envoy doesn't need to get angry over such a lowly servant. If this restaurant isn't good enough, I'll take you to a better one instead." At that moment, Azure Long Envoy tossed the servant to the ground as if discarding trash. He stated that this time, he would spare you out of respect for the Vermilion Bird Envoy. After saying this, he turned around gracefully and left the tavern. Everything that had just unfolded was completely taken in by Jun Carefree. To his surprise, the Vermilion Bird Envoy warmly grasped the servant's hand and handed him several coins. He also comforted him, saying, "Take this money for now. Just endure a little longer. Everything will pass." This strange scene immediately piqued Jun Carefree's curiosity. Then, he quickly seized the moment when another servant was serving dishes to ask who those people were just now. Is he so arrogant even in the Vermilion Bird Imperial capital, and your monarch doesn't intervene? Then, upon hearing the servant's account, he finally learned. It turned out that a few years ago, the Vermilion Bird King and the Azure Dragon King had joined forces to explore the mythic realm, but unfortunately, they were injured by the Serpent Demon, leaving the Vermilion Bird King severely poisoned and bedridden. Only the Qianxia elixir of immortality can cure it. Coincidentally, the Azure Dragon King possesses an elixir of immortality, but the condition is to marry the Vermilion Bird Princess. And those people just now were the envoys sent by the Crown Prince of the Azure Dragon Ancient Kingdom to propose the marriage alliance. Hearing this, June Carefree suddenly smiled and remarked that the elixir of immortality is priceless and hard to come by. Do you really think the Azure Long Ancient Kingdom would be willing to part with it? However, Servant did not care about these matters. At this moment, he only knew that since the princess was enduring humiliation, they naturally had no choice but to follow suit. And seeing the puzzled look in June Carefree's eyes, the servant clearly understood that he was an outsider. He hurriedly expressed that in their eyes, Princess Vermilion Bird is a figure of faith, because the princess possesses the Vermilion Bird divine flame. As long as the divine flame remains unextinguished, the Vermilion Bird will never perish. Therefore, Her Highness the Princess is the symbol of faith for all the people of the Vermilion Bird Kingdom. Upon hearing this, June Carefree had a general understanding of the current situation in the Vermilion Bird Ancient Kingdom. Shortly after, he arrived at the princess's bedchamber. At that moment, just as the two guards spotted him, the guards were just about to unleash a thunderous roar. Little did they expect that June Carefree would simply smile faintly. In the next second, his figure had already passed dozens of meters beyond the two. Seeing this, the two realized that such a master was beyond their ability to handle. Immediately, the two hurriedly called out for the Imperial Guards to come and assist. Who goes there? State your name. Emperor Prefecture June Family June Carefree. No sooner had the words been spoken than the two men from before were completely dumbfounded. But they still resisted their fear and insisted that even if you are a noble of the June family, you cannot barge into the princess's chambers without permission. This indomitable spirit instantly added a few more points to June Carefree's evaluation of the Vermilion Bird Kingdom. At that moment, accompanied by the hurried arrival of the Vermilion Bird Princess, a terrified face immediately came into everyone's view. Oh no! I rushed over as soon as I sensed the aura, but I still didn't make it in time. As a revered saint of the royal lineage, she is held in high esteem by countless people. Yet, in front of her people, she knelt publicly before a complete stranger.